Hello, hello, and welcome to Digital Marketing. This week it is episode number 48. This one we are calling Immersive Ads, Podcasts, and Search Marketing. Actually, we've got a little bit more than that in this particular episode, but I figured, we're running out of space, so we'll cover those main three for sure. Brought to you, of course, this entire episode brought to you by Seriously Simple Marketing over at seriouslysimplemarketing.com. So if you're just sort of getting started out, or more in particular, we do a lot of analytics, Google Tag Manager, conversion optimization type conversations. So anything you're looking in terms of the digital marketing area and how to track all of that and how to improve your results that you're currently getting, just jump over to our blog. Hopefully find some good stuff there. And if you always want some different topics covered on there, just let me know. No big deal. You just always leave comments in some of the articles that are currently there asking for different topics to be covered. And we can certainly do that for you. You will also meet many of the blog posts that I have written. Of course, my name is Chris Mercer. I'm all about analytics and optimization. That's kind of what we do for our living here. Content development, I do a lot of the blogs, obviously, for Seriously Simple Marketing. And then, of course, the host of Digital Marketing This Week. And yep, just call me Mercer because that's the easiest way to identify me in a crowded room. All right. One other quick note about Seriously Simple Marketing. If you go there, you will see a little form you can fill out to join what we call the Insiders Club for digital marketing this week. Now, DMTW, the Insiders Club, the difference is that you can actually get links to join us live. So if you want to sign up as an attendee and join us live, that's where you go. And you can actually join us for these live recordings. You can ask any questions that you want. So it's just a really good place to get some additional coaching or just have somebody take a look at your stuff. Like I said, or just get help around, maybe a particular topic we covered. It really doesn't matter. It's kind of a free-for-all conversation. And we do that at the end of every show. So you are more than welcome to join us. And of course, there's just the whole idea of being in the chat, which if you are joining us live, feel free to go ahead and introduce yourself in chat and we can get the conversation started. And that's that. All right, let's go ahead and get underway. The first thing I'm going to bring up here is an article on search best practices. Now, this was from Search Engine Land. And we thought this was pretty interesting, again, published just a couple of days ago, this particular one. But this is, search engine marketing is something that's been around for a long, long time. It's like the great granddaddy of paid advertising, right? So making sure that search, I shouldn't even say paid advertising, it's technically unpaid advertising, but it has this component of paid advertising, right? So search engine marketing, for those who don't know, is just really getting traffic to your site through search, right? Through the search engines like Google and Bing and everything else. And what they've done here is they've actually taken a look at the best practices, right? So that's what Search Engine Marketing Land. And I like articles like this every once in a while. So I think these are good to do because what happens is you kind of get used to what you've been doing, and even if you've been doing this for a long time, you can forget these best practices, right? Or you may not even know that, this is something that was common sense and nobody's ever questioned it because things have changed and they change all the time. So this article is a really good way to go through and talk about, okay, hey, here's what we're doing, right? So you're doing paid advertising, you're doing search engine marketing, broad match, let's try to avoid broad match terms, the test, analyze, optimize, repeat. I think it was a really good tip only because they're asking you to say, to basically prep yourself to say, paid media, it's going to be tons of failure. It's like 97% failure, right? That's most marketing is. Like most marketing is failure. And the trick to it is you get through the failures as fast as possible, you learn what you can, and you move on. And with ads, it's obviously the same sort of thing. They talk about not relying solely on Google. Great example. Bing's starting to get bigger and bigger in the US. So it's worth checking out Bing and Yahoo and everything else. Utilizing negative keyword terms, which is when somebody says, you can actually put in your keyword phrases to say, okay, well, anything that's, not bike. And then if they typed in like how to mountain bike, as opposed to like, how to, race on a mountain, and, and you don't target people that do mountain bikes at all, you can say, get rid of the term bike, right? Sort of negative keyword. And on and on. And this is a two-part series. So the other thing is they talk about using different creative for mobile and desktop ads. Makes 100% sense. So this is something that you can use. This is what's kind of nice about some of this stuff is these apply not just to search engine marketing, but also to Facebook and all of your other paid spend. Create different ads because the experience, right? Part of it's the device, but it's mostly the environment that person is in. You're in a completely different mindset, right? A completely different sort of operating environment when you're on a smartphone versus when you're on a desktop. Right? So if you're on a desktop, you're sitting down somewhere, it's a little more stationary. Even if you're on a laptop, it's the same concept. You're still mostly stationary and focused on something. Whereas on a smartphone, you could be walking down the street with a Starbucks in the left hand, smartphone in the right, and you're kind of navigating through thumb as you're working your way through this crowded street. So it's a completely different environment, and making sure that your ads are aware that the environment that they're in, right? So a mobile ad can be very, very quick to the point. It goes to a highly, highly congruent landing page, which immediately takes care of whatever it is that ad is promised and delivered. And then with desktop, you might have a little more space to put some copy and videos and everything else, but mobile, not so much. So again, just kind of a little idea there. And again, there is two parts to this particular article, so we're interested in coming back and taking a look, and they'll be covering a few other things. So that is search engine lands, re-examining the top 10 paid search best practices. Again, if you don't do search marketing, I'd still go through it because you can use these for any sort of paid marketing for the most part, not all of them, but for the most part. So take a look at that. Next up, let's talk about some industry news. So Facebook, now this is from Marketing Land. Facebook is starting to do immersive mobile ads. Now I can pretty much promise that if you're listening to this podcast now, you do not have access to this. This is Facebook's just sort of early beta test. They're only giving this to people who are spending millions of dollars a day or whatever insane amount of money that they're spending on Facebook. But let me show you what these basically do, and I'm going to hope that this kind of comes through. So you can see here on the video, for those of you who are not watching, I'll sort of describe it. So on the video, what's happening is when somebody clicks on a Facebook ad, it opens up almost like a mini site that is all about the particular brand. And they can do different stuff. And it's like this little mini website, like a little niche website that you might create. And it's all about the particular product and the company, and you can kind of flip through it, right? It's like a little mini WordPress site. The difference is they are not on your site. They are on Facebook still. And so all of this stuff is happening. You click on the ad, it goes kind of dives deeper into the experience with the brand, but it's like a super advanced Facebook page, right? That literally acts kind of like a WordPress site. You've got sliders with graphics and everything like that. It's got kind of a Flipboard feel. So if anyone's used Flipboard before, where the screen sort of opens up like a clamshell and closes like a clamshell, that's kind of what it looks like. And of course, we'll have links for this on the show notes. So just go over to Marketing Land, you can take a look at it. But they're allowing big brands to play with this now. So again, when somebody actually goes through, clicks on the ad, opens up this little mini site where they can do all sorts of stuff, brand awareness, building, and we don't see a ton of call to action stuff. So I don't know if this is something they're going to make available to everybody. It would be interesting if they did, but this looks like it's going to take a bunch of resources to get together. And then again, you just got to try to figure out how well does this actually translate into sales, especially for those of us that are doing direct marketing, which most digital marketers, that's what we're all about, is trying to make sure we're getting a return on the investment. But we wanted to let you be aware that this was even out there. So Facebook is thinking in terms of this. They're trying to figure out how do we keep people on Facebook.com. These ads are one particular way they could do it. So who knows if they go live and start filtering down for everything else, but just be aware that they exist. And this is also something where if you're creating a site already where they kind of go to this little experience, maybe that can be ported over if they do, who knows? But just something to be aware of. So these immersive mobile ads that Facebook has just started testing, and that's from our friends over at Marketing Land. Next up, let's talk about Mashable and their article on podcasting. Now, this is something just because, for those of you who are listening to a lot of podcasts, you probably already know this, but if you're new, if you're just sort of getting started in this whole world, podcasting has been making a resurgence. Article here by Mashable actually gives a lot of the credit to a podcast called Serial, which is really just a story broken up in parts. There's nothing, in my humble opinion, there's nothing really that revolutionary about it, other than they had a massive list that they could get them started because they came from American Public Media. They're backed by the same people that do This American Life, which is another huge show that's originally on kind of the NPR news stations, and they moved into got this huge podcasting. So they had a massive ramp that they could launch from. And they did, and it took everything by storm because it was like, oh my God, they broke it up into it. They broke up the story into like separate sections. Holy cow. But there's lots of people that have done this before, right? Seth Godin actually had something called Startup School, which is awesome. And it's a serial podcast. It is just a series of, I think it was 10 or 15. I don't remember exactly how many it was. And he goes through this whole training of startups and recorded it all, and he put it out there, and you can go through it over and over again. It's like 3 years old now. But there's lots of people that have done things like this. But the good news about, because this thing made such a big splash, is it brought a lot of people in who were not typical podcast listeners, because they advertised to people who were not podcast listeners. And now people are moving from radio into podcasting because they made it kind of easy and they made it enticing. And so now you've got all these people who are coming into these mainstream media, and this is where the benefit is, and I will give the credit to them. They are turning more people into podcast listeners because they're getting people to move from the medium of radio to the medium of podcasting. Whereas many of us probably have been there for a while, right? We started with podcasting. We're very used to podcasting. We know that's been a channel for a bit. But now there's a lot more people coming into it. So now you have the demand that's being created by podcasts like Serial, and you've got the ease of access that's being proliferated by all these devices that are coming out. So now you've got Android Auto, right? So you've got Android in the car, you've got Apple in the car, you've got all these different interfaces that are coming out with all these different devices that can easily access podcasts. You've got lots of desktop things that can do that, lots of things that are on your smart TV that can do that. Everything it's kind of this perfect storm of podcasting. So radio is going to have a challenge and has had a challenge for a long, long time. In keeping the listeners, and in keeping with podcasting, right? The benefit is that you can niche down to a very specific audience. So here's kind of the whole thing to break this down. Podcasting is going to get huge, right? That's been a thing for years and years and years. There's nothing really new about that. Yes, it's going to get bigger. It's going to get bigger because now it's starting to hit mainstream media, and mainstream media is taking advantage of it. And because they're doing that, they're now starting to hit this tipping point where they're converting people who, like, these are the people who never before maybe used email 20 years ago, and now they use email all the time. They can't live without it, right? These are the late adopters. These are the people who are not, this is the majority, right? These are the people who are like, podcast, what's a podcast? In 5 years, everyone will know what a podcast is because of movements like this. And so podcasting is going to get incredibly bigger. In fact, it's going to hit an accelerated ramp up, it would be my guess. It's part of the reason we're doing digital marketing this week as a podcast. I did the show for almost an entire year just to our list. We didn't make it a podcast, which is why I started it in the episode in the 40s, right? When we started doing these episodes, because it wasn't a podcast. And we decided to do a podcast for two reasons. One is because, hey, it gives us practice to get out there with this whole other channel. And it's just repurposing the initial show that we had anyway. We were already doing the recordings. And now that we've got the podcast out, we can actually practice with certain niches, right? So right now we're doing this digital marketing, and that's what it's about, is really focused on digital marketers. But if you're doing a podcast and you don't want to go to necessarily something as general as digital marketing, maybe you want to go after somebody who, hey, I just want to talk to people about sales funnels, or how to set up their analytics, or copywriting tips, right? If you're focusing on digital marketers, if your focus is on raising goldfish at home, make that a podcast, because I guarantee you there are people out there who are passionate about that particular topic that are interested in what you say as material. And you can do video podcasting, you can do audio podcasting, it doesn't really matter. You can throw up slides and just read through the slides and kind of have both if you want to do that. So there's lots of different things you can do. But look at podcasting as a marketing tool. If you do a health and fitness supplement, why not do a podcast once a week that sort of comes up with, hey, here's the latest in health and fitness news. Something kind of like what we're doing with digital marketing this week. This is the digest, right? This is us going through and saying, hey, here's kind of what's been going on the last week or two. I want to make sure everyone's kept involved with the latest goings on, because it's tough. There's thousands and thousands of blogs and things are constantly hitting us. And this is a repurposing of what we want to do anyway as a company. We want to make sure that at Seriously Simple Marketing, we're trying to stay up to date with everything that's going on, because it's tough. And as we find things, in order to encourage us to do that, we're like, hey, we got to report this on DMTW. We have to let people know in digital marketing this week what's going on. And so now that gives us an additional incentive to make sure that we're staying up to date, and we're helping to teach it to other people, which helps us to learn it. It's kind of a little accelerated learning tool there. You teach what you most need to learn. And so we teach it so that we really understand the concepts, and it becomes even more of an authority play for us because we really do understand this stuff. Then, of course, now that we've done that, we repurpose what we're teaching in the show with podcasting, right? And have added podcasting. So take a look at doing that. And anybody that wants some ideas on how to do that, just feel free to pop in the chat and let us know, and we'll go from there. All right, next up, let's talk about conversions. Now, this is from user testing over usertesting.com, which is a web service that will literally just allow you to do user testing, right? You can email and then say, hey, users, can you please figure out how to select the large pants, and give them that sort of goal, and then they will go through and you can see users, how they're getting frustrated or not frustrated, or comments, and it just sort of helps you with UX design. Really interesting tool. But the blog post that we're talking about here is where they're talking about increasing conversions with Google Analytics. Now, we do a lot of writing about Google Analytics because that is our main business over at Seriously Simple Marketing. We're always talking about tracking analytics, using analytics properly, making sure you're setting goals, making sure you're tagging your traffic, making sure you're using events, make sure you use tools like Google Tag Manager, and then going through and split testing and optimizing once you have all of your data. And ultimately, split testing and optimizing is what leads to conversions. But there are ways that once you have your analytics set up properly, and that's the key word, make sure it's set up properly, where you can actually go through and improve conversions based on that data. So here are 5 different ways that user testing recommends Number one is going to the age and looking at your age demographics. Number two is looking at the gender, right? So how much are you focusing on, is your copy and your color and your design focused on maybe more male, but then you find out more of your audience is female. Now, I am a big fan. I don't doubt that Google knows a ton about us, because they do. Facebook knows even more when it comes to who we are and what we like and don't like. So we like to take this demographics report in Google Analytics and actually compare it to insights data in Facebook for our own marketing. So we'll take a look and see what's going on in the Seriously Simple Marketing site, but we'll also go into Facebook and say, okay, what's happening there? What does Facebook Insights say? That we can learn, because Facebook Insights is, in my opinion, a whole lot more useful than the demographics of Google. So you'll find a lot of times the demographics of Google kind of give you the, well, yeah, of course. Like if you're focused on women's clothing, Google will tell you, oh, 80% of your site is women. You're like, okay, of course, like that makes sense. That's all we've been targeting. But Facebook will tell you, oh, well, they're, mommy bloggers who work part-time and like using dry cleaners. Like, it's amazing what Facebook will do. So it's worth looking at the Facebook Insights report when it comes to age and gender. But it is good to get some general conversions data, and you can always go back and you can build this. This is kind of the benefit of using analytics with things like AdWords, is you can build remarketing lists. So not only can you remarket on using tools like Facebook, you can remarket using AdWords, and you can build those audiences using segmentation in Google Analytics over things like age and gender. Interests. Now, this is, again, infinity categories. I'd say these top three all go to Facebook on and look at insights, because interest is interesting too, right? It will give you some category stuff, but a lot of them are the same. Like we don't find that, I mean, there's some differences, but it'll be kind of like that. Oh, okay. Like you might find out that somebody, if you're a health and fitness company, you find out that people that are also interested in health and fitness are interested in fine dining. Right, and you might go, okay, well, that's because they've got disposable income, because they're paying, $75 for my supplement, so they have above average income. We know they have disposable income, and they're interested in fine dining. So we can create content around how to eat out, and do it where you still maintain your health, maybe, right? But again, those insights, I like Facebook for those. The thing I do like that is not on this list that I'll give you as a conversions tool is, assuming, again, big assumption here, but make sure you've set up your search. If you have an internal search on your pages, on your WordPress pages, and people can search your site, again, not Google search, but they can search your own site, and most WordPress sites have this by default. You set that up in Google Analytics, it'll actually record all of those searches. And then what happens is you've got a direct line into what people are actually looking for. So you might find out that, again, if you have a health and fitness site where it's got some blog content and people are coming to that page and they're typing in like how to eat well while dining out, right? Or a fast food guide to eating healthy. Like you might find things like that in search. And if you do, then you go, wow, okay, people are actually looking for this information. I can actually use this to create either products or additional content around. And then if you created a blog post around the fast food guide to eating right, then you remarket back to people who saw that podcast, the particular offer, and you can kind of work them through your funnel at that point. So lots of interesting possibilities there. The last two that I'm gonna cover here on this particular section on analytics reports are looking at the device reports and looking at where people are leaving report. So on devices, so this is not just mobile and desktop, though that's interesting for sure, because mobile and desktop are going to be industry standard right now, and this will change, but industry standard as of now is right around 25%, 25 to 30% of people that will convert on desktop convert to mobile, because mobile is such a pain in the butt to check out on, typing in credit card details, everything else. Eventually, and probably pretty quickly, you're going to start seeing one-pay stuff come through, where it will say, yes, I would like to add this to my cart. Okay, check out. How would you like to check out? Amazon, Google, or Android Pay, I guess they're calling it now. So Amazon, Android Pay, Apple Pay, PayPal. And you click one of those 4 buttons and it goes, great, we've added you. It's done. It's on the way. And that'll be it, because you would have already set up those other services. That's kind of where I think it's going. Total guess on my part. But that's where I see it going. It has to be that simple because it has to be thumb friendly. If it's not thumb friendly, it's going to be very hard, right? So that's kind of where we have that. But looking at your devices, so again, not just the physical devices, but also browser devices. And I'll tell you, a recent browser, it's on the market that you should absolutely be testing your funnels with. You should absolutely be playing with so that you know how it works. It's called Edge, Microsoft Edge. It is replacing Internet Explorer. It came out when Windows 10 hit the market about a month or so ago. And so you want to make sure that you're going through and you've updated to Microsoft 10 if you have it, or you have a tool like crossbrowsertesting.com where you can go on there and you can use their version of Microsoft Edge, because it is not Internet Explorer. It is a completely rebuilt from the ground up different, absolutely 100% different, cannot emphasize that enough, completely different browser. Don't treat it like Internet Explorer. It's not. It's completely different. So, and it's going to get more and more. We're starting to see it pop up on the radar of everybody, of all of our clients now, because now more people have migrated to Windows 10, and that will continue to happen every month. There's going to be more and more people that migrate to Windows 10. So you've got to make sure that you've gone through Edge and you've tested all of your funnels, you've tested your shopping carts. We actually had a client whose cart completely shut down on Windows 10 because, I'm sorry, on Microsoft Edge, I should say, because that particular cart was built so inflexible at the time, where it said, okay, if it's, and it was trying to be flexible. It basically said, hey, if it's this browser, then do this. If it's this browser, do this. If it's this browser, do this. And Microsoft Edge wasn't one of the browsers because it never existed before. And so when Microsoft Edge comes around, the cart just sort of shuts down, doesn't know what to do, because there's this totally unknown browser, right? So it kind of treats it like a foreign hack. And in reality, it was like, okay, well, we can't buy anything because we use Edge. So they fixed that very, very quickly. But that's an example of why you want to go through your cards with Edge. Now, chances are you're going to be fine, but this is why you test. Don't just assume it's true. You want to trust but verify. So go through there and check out Edge. And then finally, this last metric they talk about with analytics is where you can go into your all pages reports and you can take a look at your exit rate, right? So see where the pages are, where people are exiting, because that might tell you you have an opportunity to do some conversion. We also look at the landing page reports for that. So we actually found, this is kind of the reverse end of this, but instead of finding out, and you can find out obviously where people leave, but we'll do a landing page report as opposed to the all pages report. And we can see, okay, here are the pages where, especially if you're doing sales funnels, you're kind of going to know where the exit report is, because the sales funnels are designed to exit at certain points. Like your thank you page is going to be a high exit rate because that's it. That's the end of the funnel, and that's okay. But your landing page report, if you look at landing pages, this is the first page that somebody's seeing in the funnel, and you might be surprised, especially if your site's been around for a while. You might be surprised what the first page people is, or what the people are looking at, right? The landing page will surprise you, and so you go to your landing pages, and you might go like, "Wow, I didn't realize people were seeing this page still." This was a promotion we ran. We had this happen with a client. This was a promotion they ran a year and a half ago, and it was getting 400 or 500 views a day still. Now, they weren't doing traffic to it, but other people were. It got listed in Google somehow, right? And so all of a sudden, traffic's still coming to it. People are finding the page, and it's the lander, which means it's the very first page people are seeing in their session. And when they see this page, all of the action, all the call to actions, all the buy buttons were disconnected because it was a promo, and they just sort of forgot about it, and it was broken, didn't work. And you could see in analytics how people were refreshing the page over and over again. It was showing how they kept going back to this page, trying to get these buttons to work, and there was nowhere else to go. So all they did is they put a quick little redirect to the new version of the offer, and they start recapturing some sales. So take a look at, again, instant improvement to conversions, because they were just able to convert traffic into sales that was desperately trying to actually buy at the time. So take a look at those exit rate, and again, in your landing page report. And visit user testing for some more information on how to improve. Next up, I want to talk about conversion lift. Now, this is actually an old tool, but it's been updated very recently in the last week or so. So there's something called conversion lift that Facebook came out with way back in January. And I'm going to go ahead and bring that up here. So conversion lift basically is a tool that, and of course, we'll have show notes for all these. You can link to the notes. Conversion lift basically is a tool that says, hey, Facebook, I want you to prove that you're working, right? If I do ads, that I'm going to see a bump in conversions versus when I don't do ads. And so what it does is it says, okay, I'm going to randomly split up the traffic, and on the target that you're giving me, I'm going to give half of them the ads, and the other half I'm not going to show ads, but I'm going to measure their conversions. And then I'll measure conversions on both. And all of a sudden, it's got both different groups that it's measuring the conversions on. So you can instantly see what lift you have over a control group. So how much impact are your ads actually giving? That's what conversion lift does. It's okay, Facebook, built-in Facebook tool. Now, this update allows you to do that with different campaigns, which I actually think is more useful, because it kind of makes sense that Facebook is going to give you, if you do a paid ad, if you're sending a bunch of traffic in paid ads, you should see a higher conversion than people who are not sending the traffic to, right? So if they're not seeing the ads, so you should do that. But if you're, with this new update, you're seeing different campaigns. So if you've got one campaign going to people who use the tools of your industry versus another ones who follow the industry magazines from your industry versus another one who maybe has follow the authority figures in your industry, and you've got 3 different targets, 3 different campaigns set up for each one of those targets, you can actually use conversion lift to see which campaign is actually giving you the highest lift, which is pretty interesting. So, and again, it's basically just makes it nice and graphy, and it's kind of an interesting little tool. And a lot of people don't play with this. I'm not quite sure why. So it's worth taking a look at if you haven't known about it. And my guess is most people just don't know about it because Facebook didn't make a huge splash. Nobody was really talking about all the different ways. So it's worth checking out. Maybe it's something of use to you. And again, it's called Conversion Lift, and we'll have the links to the list to this particular blog post that talks about the Conversion Lift updates, as well as to Conversion Lift itself, which is the Facebook notification. So with that, I think we will go ahead and bring it to an official close to digital marketing this week. This has been episode number 48. We are all about the immersive ads. We talked about podcasts and podcasting and the different trends there. And I really can't emphasize enough, go niche-y, go really, really niche-y for this.